opinions of the host, guests, and call-in participants. These do not necessarily represent the views of this show's distributors or sponsors. This program may contain obscene, profane, or otherwise objectionable language. Viewer discretion is advised. Howdy-o, everybody. Coming to you cordless from glamorous Minneapolis. It's Wednesday night, April 29th, 2026. I am Jim Peters, and welcome to another edition of Jim Peters at Night. This is episode number 344, if you're keeping score at home. And if you're also keeping score at home and have for a long time, on episode 001, the very first episode we ever did of the show, we had on our old friend, and he's back from his office in Naples, Florida. Here's MURRAY Sabrin, who was on our very first show. I think going back to Conch News, I think you've been on at least a dozen times, at least.
I would think so. And it's great to be with you again, Jim. There's a lot to talk about, a lot of things happening in the United States and overseas. And we have to sort this out for the two goals that I think all peoples have around the world, peace and prosperity.
Yeah. That's absolutely right. I think that's what everybody wants. And also, now the reason I actually had you on today is because you started a new podcast last week. I'm going to put a little graphic up here. Health and Wealth and the Pursuit of Happiness with Dr. MURRAY Sabrin. That's you. If you didn't know that. How many episodes have you done so far?
We did 3 episodes. We do one a week. We have another episode coming up on Thursday. And we alternate between health experts and investment experts, because the goal of the show is to provide information to viewers to improve their health and increase their wealth so they can pursue their happiness. And the pursuit of happiness is not by accident. It's tied into the 250th anniversary of the Declaration, which says we, the American people, are entitled to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And to me, as someone who believes in limited government, the Bill of Rights, and free markets, it means that we should be free of government encumbrances, the biggest one, of course, being taxes. And more than 30 years ago, I wrote a roadmap to a tax-free America where we get all the services we want without the bureaucracies of the welfare state, of the federal government, our state governments, and just have people do what they do best, which is interact with each other peacefully to produce the goods and services that the public wants, and have a stable monetary system so prices will not go crazy like they did during COVID. And in fact, Jim, in a free market economy, prices slowly go down as productivity increases. That's the beauty of the free market. And if we had an economy like that, prices would be a lot lower than they are today. And so the only way you can do that, or one of the best ways to doing that, is having a gold standard, because the supply of gold increases very marginally during the course of a year as the supply of goods increases greater than that. So therefore, prices in the aggregate will come down. Some prices will go up, some prices will go down a lot. But the point is, a free market economy reflects the aspirations of producers and consumers. And that's what the people in Washington don't believe, have not embraced for decades. And that's why we have nearly a $40 trillion national debt, $2 trillion deficits, because they think government is the answer. And as Ronald Reagan famously said, the most dangerous sentence in the English language is, we're from the government and we're here to help you.
And even Republicans think this. This is the part, it seems like no matter how pro-capitalist you are, once you get to Washington, you start to soften up. The vast majority of people say, oh, gee, well, first of all, they're trying to buy votes. I know that. Everyone, it's like, there's that. But it's like people start to they lose confidence in it. It bothers the crap out of me. Doesn't I mean, do you agree with me about the fact that even the conservatives start to think this way?
Well, here's the problem. We have a president, a businessman, who's acting or proposing things that Elizabeth, Elizabeth Warren wants and Bernie Sanders wants, whether it's bailouts, whether it's tariffs to increase government revenue, more spending on major programs, entitlement programs. So no matter who's in the Oval Office or who controls Congress, Jim, the budget keeps on going up year after year after year. Now, there's some times that the budget is flat, which is very unusual. That happened, by the way, 2-3 years during the Obama administration, which is ironic since the Republicans called Obama a socialist, and he was more fiscally disciplined than the Republicans have been since they controlled the presidency and the Congress. So there's just this philosophy out there since the Great Depression that government has to be the steward of the economy. And that is probably one of the greatest myths of all time. Government has an important role to play. That's to keep the peace, keep the borders safe, and let the people enjoy their pursuit of happiness. And everything will work out fine. Instead, between taxes, regulation, and surveillance now, even Trump, who's been surveilled by when he was a candidate and president, he signed on to the extension of the FISA court, which did all this. So here's an example of how once you're in power, to prove your point, they do what previous presidents have done in previous Congresses, which is to expand or maintain the power of the big government in Washington.
And Murray, do people do that because like somebody gets in their ear? Is someone talking to them in their ear saying, no, this really is a good idea, regardless of what the theory says and all this? Is that the reason people start caving on this stuff?
I think it's a combination of the two, is that the mindset of Washington, we have this power, let's use it. And they really don't think it through as to what is good for the American people, not what's in the national interest. I don't know what that means. The national interest seems to me what's good for the bureaucrats and the politicians.
Yeah.
The national interest, as far as I'm concerned, is freedom. It's liberty. It's why we're celebrating the 250th anniversary of the Declaration. It's about independence from an oppressive, tyrannical government. That's what the colonists revolted against. We have the same opportunity today, not through military action by using muskets or anything else that we could use, but just using the power of the pen. I've had letters to the editor in the local paper, the Naples Daily News, the Wall Street Journal, expressing my viewpoint that we need to get away from the mindset of government has the answers. If the government had the answers, Jim, the budget would be balanced. We wouldn't have all this debt. Medical care would be inexpensive, and everything would be great in America. But we have these systemic problems caused by government action, and now you have Spirit Airlines in bankruptcy, and the Trump administration is thinking about a bailout for Spirit Airlines.
I know. I don't believe that. I just find that unbelievable. Have you ever used Spirit Airlines?
No, we haven't flown in a while. But the point is, yeah, I mean, I've heard some pretty much horror stories about it. Again, we've had consolidation in the airline industry. The airline industry over our lifetimes, Jim, has changed dramatically. We used to have about a dozen or so carriers back in the 50s and 60s. Some of them have gone by the wayside. Some of them have merged. And we have, I think, a much more efficient system.
Until '78, the whole industry was regulated. I mean,
that was part of the Jimmy Carter deregulation. To his credit, it was a Democratic president that did more for deregulation of the U.S. economy than a Republican president before or since then.
Yeah, I know, it's ironic because he saw what happened with the airlines, and then they started to think, well, geez, maybe this would work for everything, and they were going to do that, but then he lost re-election, so it never really happened.
Well, he did telecommunications, trucking, and a whole bunch of other industries. And then we have a big problem with banking. Banking is the most protected industry in the country because of the Great Depression. We have FDIC, depositor insurance. We have heavy government regulation. And the problem is, we talked about this in the past, is that banks have a very unsustainable business model as they borrow short and lend long, which is, we saw this in the movie, It's a Wonderful Life, at the end of the movie, where there's a bank run on the Bailey Savings and Loan because the Bailey Savings and Loan didn't have the money to meet the depositors' demand because the money was loaned out to for people to buy houses in long-term loans. So that's the mismatch you have in the banking industry. But the government tries to maintain stability in the banking system. And after the financial crisis, which was primarily focused in the financial industry. Things have gotten cleaned up. They don't have these easy loans anymore. But now there's a concern with private credit and what that may do to the financial stability of the country. But we'll see how that plays out. And then there's also people that think that we're in an AI bubble. There's a lot of money going into an industry, and when that happens, Jim, historically, it inflates prices. It inflates values in land and these data centers. So we'll see how that plays out over the next several years. But there are always going to be winners and losers in every sector of the economy. And that's the beauty of the free enterprise system, is that the losers go by the wayside, their assets get taken over, and more efficient entrepreneurs use those assets to better meet consumer needs. And that's the essence of a market economy, is that the goal is to meet consumer needs, not to satisfy the whims of the politicians or to make jobs for the bureaucrats.
You know, in all the times we've talked, Murray, I don't know if we've talked a lot about employment. I have a lot of people, you referenced AI, who come on this program, and we talk a lot about it. I'm of the theory that, unlike all the previous technical revolutions that have happened since the Industrial Revolution, I think this is going to be inherently different. I think a lot of people are going to lose their jobs permanently. I don't think, at least in a relative short term. What I'm defining as short term is 10 to 20 years, maybe.
Yeah. Again, this is the thing about technology. Every time you have a technological breakthrough, there are new jobs created. There are jobs that are destroyed. This is the price of progress, if you will. The price of progress is the benefits have been much greater than the cost. I mean, think of the horse and buggy makers. They went by the wayside. Look what happened in the last 30 years. We don't have DVD players anymore. We don't have video cassettes anymore. We live in a digital age where a lot of things have happened. Look at all the jobs that have been created because of the internet, with podcasts and other opportunities online, whether it's e-commerce or consulting jobs. So again, we've had an explosion in service jobs, which began, by the way, back in the 1960s. There are people who recognized, as the job market and the workplace has been evolving, a lot of jobs would be created and some jobs would be lost. So again, we shouldn't fret about it. The government can't do it. They're not in the business of forecasting the economy. That's the job of the entrepreneurs, and they do a magnificent job, because everything that we want, Jim, we go to the big box stores, we can go online, and you order something either from Amazon or some other online e-commerce site, and you get it within a day or two. That's really incredible when you think about the logistics it takes to get a good from some warehouse somewhere in the country. And now Amazon has distribution centers all over the country, as do other places, and we can get merchandise in 24, 48 hours. It's really remarkable.
I live in a major city. I'm here in Minneapolis. I can order something from Amazon and get it in 2 hours. I just find this is nuts.
Well, it shows you how time and space has shrunk, so to speak. Growing up, we used to see the infomercials on TV. You had to dial an 800 number. We had a catalog from somebody, from some retailer, and you had an 800 number. You're lucky if you get the merchandise in 2 weeks, because it would take a long time for it to be fulfilled and mailed.
Funny you should mention that, and we've talked about this before. I just find that Sears should have become Amazon. I mean, Sears was the Amazon of the 20th century, and they should have made the leap, and they didn't, because they were just lazy, fat, and stupid, I guess. They didn't see it.
Well, this is the thing. Once you have a business model, which is the retail store, and you're in malls, and the malls, some malls are thriving, some malls are not doing too well.
Hold it. I pulled a statistic here, Murray, and this just came out a couple days ago. 10,000 retail stores in the United States have gone out of business since 2023, and the projection is that by 2030, another 40,000 are going to go out of business, mostly because of online delivery.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we have some local places that we shop here in Naples, Florida, high quality merchandise, and some of the smaller malls, some of the larger malls. And in the larger malls, you're always going to see turnover. That's just the nature of the beast, so to speak. And we have enclosed malls, we have open malls. And so, again, you go where you think you can get the best value. And I constantly get updates from retailers that I've been buying from, and they send me updates. They've got a sale this weekend. They got a sale for the holiday coming up. So as a consumer that doesn't have an unlimited income, you try to shop the best you can. We have Publix, which is a Southeast grocery chain. They have over 3,000 stores. There seems to be like one in every corner here in Naples. And they have a 2-for-1 sale every week on a whole bunch of merchandise. So if it's something that you need and it has a long shelf life, you stock up on it. And we were there the other day, and the receipt tells you how much you saved on this shopping trip, and we saved $20. I mean, so you add that up over the course of the year. That's real money. And so this is how you have to do. You have to be a very savvy shopper these days. And with Costco, being a Costco member, you get the percentages back for gas and other things. And a couple of months ago, I got the rebate check for what we purchased the last year. It was over $700. So again, it just shows you that you can save money and shop wisely, and you can do okay. But the point is to have a good paying job, which gets back to something I preach to my students when I taught finance for 35 years. Always have a plan A, a plan B, and possibly a plan C or a plan D, because you never know how the economy is going to unfold. And therefore, if the job that you want is not in plan A, you can fall back maybe on plan B and plan C. And so this is why learning as many skills as possible is going to serve you well over the course of your career, because you just don't know what job will be, what job opportunities will be declining in the future, and therefore you need to be in a skill set where the job opportunities will be increasing. That's just common sense. And when I started teaching at the college, I told my students I'm in my 5th career, and I was able to teach finance at the college level, even though I didn't have a formal education in finance, because I picked up skills along the way in my employment career that led me to the opportunity, gave me the opportunity to teach finance at the undergraduate level.
But getting back to this AI thing, this is the part where I think, and you're free to disagree, of course, which is the reason we have you on, that I don't think AI is going to create, at least in the very short term, I don't think it's going to create a lot of jobs. I think this is the first time where, in the past, all new technology were basically tools that people could use. But this AI thing is actually going to replace people wholesale. That's the way I look. I guess it already is, really. I mean, you look around. Although I have to say, it's really interesting. The employment numbers have been pretty good the last couple of quarters.
Yeah, one place I think that AI could be extremely helpful would be in the development of new pharmaceutical drugs, which would have to be tested. So you have AI coming up with what's the best protocol or best formula that you can come up with a drug for a particular illness, and then it does a search and seeing what those illnesses are and what protocols have been used in the past, and then the scientists would have to evaluate that and then have trials. So it could explode the whole concept of information using, testing it, and then getting a product to the marketplace. So again, you just never know in terms of design for architecture, for better crop output. So there are a whole host of activities that could benefit from AI, which in the final analysis means that we, the consumer, would get better products and better services at hopefully lower prices.
Yeah. Well, we are, I mean, like you said, I'm being redundant. We already are getting better prices and better services. I mean, it's really pretty amazing. And this is the nostalgic part of me, because this really doesn't matter. The only thing that bothers me about contemporary life is that nobody goes outside anymore. You don't need to go to the movies. I mean, I still like to go shopping for my vegetables and my food. But if you want, Amazon is happy to do that for you too. And my cousin, she just orders stuff all the time. I mean, she doesn't go grocery shopping.
No, I like to get out just to get out from the apartment.
Yeah, why? But the thing is, we're the minority. Apparently, most people don't want to go out. I don't know.
No, I don't mind. I think one way of just seeing what's happening in the economy is just going to the mall and see what people are buying and get a sense of what products are hot, what products are not hot. And this is how some people find good investment ideas, by the way, is to see
That's the reason I go out too, Murray. I like to see what people are selling. It's like, yeah, what's new? It's like, I like to see it, but I don't know. Maybe we're weirdos.
No, it's just a matter of what your preferences are, because people have different preferences, and that's the beauty of living in a relatively free society, is you can exercise your peaceful preferences and not be harangued and harassed by the government. And so again, between e-commerce, the big box stores, the malls, we can buy anything we want and get it delivered pretty quickly. I mean, I was at the car dealer a few months ago getting the car serviced, and the salesperson that sold me the SUV, he said they have an online presence, and somebody from several hundred miles away saw the car that they wanted at the dealer online, and they bought the car sight unseen. And it just shows you. And then, of course, you got Carvana. I sold a car before we moved to Florida through Carvana, and it was great. I sent them the information. They came with a flatbed truck. They picked it up. They gave me the check, and that was it. It was a pretty seamless process. So now you can buy and sell cars online, which in the old days you couldn't do that. You had to go to the dealer. And again, consumer choice is the should be the goal, and the way you have more consumer choices is to get the government out of the way so the entrepreneurs can do what they do best. And I've been preaching this for decades, and hopefully the politicians will get the message that they need to just get out of the way of the average person and the mom and pop shops, and of course the large corporations as well.
We need a bully in Congress to actually push that idea. Somebody actually like stand up and slam the gavel and say, "Stop this."
Well, that's why I've been fortunate enough to get several letters in the Wall Street Journal, which those letters are probably read by hundreds of thousands, maybe not millions of people. Yeah. And I just sent them one.
You're a famous economist.
Well, the thing is, I sent them one the other day, and hopefully it'll get published this week. It was about the Federal Reserve and its so-called independence. And the local paper has been publishing my letter as well. I just sent them one about Social Security, which we know could not be offered by a private investment company because it would be deemed fraudulent by the federal government. Yet the federal government does it with impunity to offer a program that is basically based on an intergenerational chain letter. So again, we've got to get these ideas out there, and I appreciate you having me on, and then we can get this podcast all over the country.
Yeah. Let's talk about the Federal Reserve. So Jerome Powell had their last meeting under his leadership today. They did not change interest rates. Nobody was expecting they were going to. Overall, how do you think he did?
Well, the thing is, during COVID, the first year of COVID, 2020, the Federal Reserve created $5 trillion by buying up government debt and mortgage-backed securities. This was an incredible infusion of new money into the economy. And then 2 years later, prices exploded to 9% on an annual rate. So we know that there is a direct relationship between printing money, creating money out of thin air, and prices. And so we're still living under the effect of all that money. And recently, the Fed has been increasing the money supply, and so therefore we're going to see more inflation down the road.
Do you put the blame on that inflation during COVID on the Fed or the Biden administration, or both?
Oh, absolutely. The Fed is responsible for the supply of money by increasing its balance sheet, which is just another fancy way of saying printing money, because they have an unlimited checking account, Jim. Can you imagine if we the people had unlimited checking accounts? Prices would go to infinity because everyone would be printing money to buy goods and services in the marketplace. But the Fed does it in a more controlled way because they don't want the economy to explode in terms of prices. And so what they do is they increase the money supply a little bit most of the time in order to grease the skids, if you will, of the economy. And I made a presentation several months ago, which people can find on my YouTube channel, Are You Prepared for the Crash of 2029? And I showed why most economists missed the events of the 1920s, which led to the stock market bubble, stock market crash, and then the Great Depression. We're seeing the same thing unfold right now, Jim, in terms of we have productivity going on, but we also have a lot of speculation going on in the stock market and in other markets. And this is going to be played out over the next several years, just as it was at the end of the 1920s. I think the 2020s could be a replay of the 1920s, reach a stock market peak down the road, and then we have a decline. How big a decline, nobody knows for sure, but that's what I'm expecting. Does it mean it's going to happen 100%? Of course not. No one is that smart. But the point is, you have to be prepared for any eventuality in the financial markets. So if you have a 401k or an IRA, you should just look at it over, speak to your financial advisor if you have one, and read some of the good analysis that you can find on Substack. And of course, we have people coming on. Last week, we had a wonderful financial expert talk about how to increase your wealth, increase your income. So I would suggest that everyone go to my YouTube channel at Murray Sabrin, and they can see the first 3 podcasts that we did, 2 on healthcare, and last week on finance and the economy. And this week we'll be doing finance and the economy again.
I was going to sneak this in before you left, but the idea when you titled it "Health and Wealth," I thought they were just kind of figurative, but you're literally talking about health and wealth, and I think that's brilliant. I really do. It's like,
well, the thing is, who doesn't want to be healthy? Who doesn't want to go through life being as healthy as possible? Right. And next week we're having on a physician who I've known for many, many years, and she's going to talk about what she did during COVID to help people get through it, and other things like medical insurance and what have you, and the nonprofit medical clinic that she and her husband founded in the early 2000s. So again, we're trying to give people the best information I can possibly come up with guests that I've known personally, or I've heard about them and their expertise. And so I want people to get as much information on health and wealth so they can pursue their happiness.
I got to get back to the Fed, though, because you're talking about them having an unlimited checkbook. This really, really pisses me off, Murray. Yeah. I think this is a reason for this alone. Powell should have been fired. This thing about renovating the Federal Reserve office building costing $2.6 billion. That's absolutely crazy. There's a development company in Manhattan that's building 2 skyscrapers on either side of Central Park. There's 70 stories, and they're only $1.6 billion each. And Powell wants to spend $2.6 billion to renovate this building. Now, I understand they can't tear it down, they can't start over. I understand that because it's a national monument. But still, that's absurd. It just makes me think those are people that are used to having an unlimited checkbook. That's ridiculous.
This is the problem with all these government agencies, and the Federal Reserve is a creation of the Congress, but it's run by private bankers, if you will. And it has an enormous power because it manipulates interest rates. Yeah. I mean, companies can't manipulate prices, otherwise they're sued by the government. But yet we have an agency created by Congress that manipulates one of the most important prices in the market, the price of money. And so they shouldn't be doing that. They should just be making sure that the dollar doesn't lose its purchasing power. And since Nixon severed the last link between the dollar and gold in 1971, the dollar has lost about 85-90% of its value. That shows you how powerful the effects are of printing money, because since 1971, the printing of money has continued nonstop, and that's what's caused a lot of the bubbles that we experienced since then, and the inflation, the double-digit inflation of the 70s, and the most recent inflation, the highest in 40 years. So again, there's no justification for a central bank. The world can prosper wonderfully without a central bank, and we need to get the power of a central bank out of the equation, so the economy can get its full head of steam without these bubbles being created and without the ups and downs in the economy caused by the Federal Reserve's manipulation of interest rates.
Yeah, I want to go into before we leave here. I want to talk a little about Iran. Because I find what's happening over there economically fascinating. First of all, I want to keep harping on this because most people don't realize this. This whole thing started because the rial, the currency of Iran, collapsed in December, and that started this whole thing because the inflation was so high. You're talking about inflation. People are literally saying, "Well, my money's worthless. I might as well go out and protest." there's no reason to go work. And now we've gotten to a point. I think I was talking to Jonathan Lockwood, was on yesterday. He's a military guy. He's a former U.S. Army colonel. He agreed with me. This thing about they took the Iranians put a blockade on us, and we turned around and put it on them, and now we're squeezing them to the point where their entire regime might go bankrupt. I mean, in like 2 weeks right now.
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
This is the effects of big government, whether it's in the United States or in third world countries or in Europe. Government have the power to destroy. They don't have the power to create. That's what the private sector is all about. And governments destroy through war, inflation, and regulation. So we need to get the government down to basically the watchman state at best, because anything above that means that someone's going to benefit from government spending, government regulation, and the printing of money. So again, the history is clear. It's obvious for everyone to read about it. Unfortunately, the president of the United States doesn't read about it because he thinks his job is to make deals with other countries with tariffs and other policies. And this is the mindset of the president, and it's a flawed mindset. And he should just realize that he cannot control world events. He cannot control the economy. And I just wish that he would get some insight from people who know better than the people who surround him, because they think they can manage a $30 trillion economy. The Soviet Union couldn't do it. And they had a lot of smart people in the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
So people cannot manage an economy. That's the fallacy of socialism. That's the fallacy.
What do you think about, I mean, I'm under the impression that Trump's theory, if you want to call it that, is that the tariffs would basically end up replacing income tax. Is that possible?
No, it's impossible, because the income tax, I think, provides around $4 trillion a year. That tariffs would have to be like 400% in order to generate the amount of revenue. That's assuming that there's no leakage of goods not being purchased. So again, we need to reduce spending. The tax issue, Jim, is a spending issue. If we reduce spending, which is hard to do because you got Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, and of course the military-industrial complex, plus the interest on the national debt, which is over $1 trillion a year. So you have about almost $6 trillion of baked-in spending every year. You've got about $1 trillion of discretionary spending. So again, I wrote a long essay. It's going to be published in a book this summer on how to get to a constitutional budget, because most of federal government spending is unconstitutional. So the question is, how do we get from here to there? That's in a long article, essay that I wrote for this book on the philosophy and ethics of taxation. So I'm looking forward to it. So again,
that hasn't come out yet.
No, it's going to come out in July. It's published by an academic publisher. A longtime friend is invited me to write an essay for it. And I said, well, let me write something that in line with the Declaration of Independence and the whole concept of independence and constitutional governance. Let me write something that shows the disconnect between Article 1, Section 8 and the federal budget. And that's what I showed, in how to get out of this quagmire, if you will, of never-ending spending and never-ending taxation, which is draining corporations and draining people's pocketbooks.
So what happens if what kind of scenario would bring the government down that would be kind of based on our national debt? What would happen?
Here's what could happen. This is the one scenario, which is a real possibility, which other countries have faced, and that is Germany after World War I, Argentina for the past several decades, is that the budget deficit gets so large, there's not enough demand in the private markets to buy up the debt. Then the central bank comes in and buys up the debt, creates new money, and then we're off to the races with inflation. That's how you get triple-digit and 4-digit inflation or higher, because the money is just, the printing presses are literally going endlessly. In the United States, would be the Federal Reserve would be buying up as much debt as possible. That money would go into the banking system, would go into other markets, and people would have more money in their pockets, and prices would go through the roof.
So we're at about $40 trillion in cumulative debt right now. About how far do we have to bring that down before we're in a quote-unquote safe area? Half?
Well, the only way you can get that down is to run budget surpluses, and that doesn't seem to be in the cards since we're running $2 trillion deficits every year. So again, for President Trump to say that he's going to balance the budget,
we've been running $4 trillion for like the last 5-7 years, haven't we?
Yeah, I mean, this fiscal year, which ends September 30th, we're probably going to see at least a $2 trillion deficit because of the war in Iran. If this thing lasts much longer, the military spending is going to go through the roof, and who knows what it'll be in terms of entitlement spending as well. So again, we're in a mess. It's a bipartisan mess. No Republicans can't claim they're fiscal conservatives. They believe in limited government, since they have been governing just like the Democrats have, maybe with different emphasis in the budget. But the point is, both parties are culpable for the mess that we're facing.
Yeah, and everyone calls it the uniparty, and that's pretty much what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, we know that. It's two sides of the same thing. I promised we'd keep this to 30 minutes, and we've gone over. But here's the graphic for your podcast again: Health, Wealth, and the Pursuit of Happiness on YouTube, Spotify, and it's on video, right?
It's on video. I post it on my Substack when it comes out, and it goes to YouTube, it goes to Spotify, and other platforms as well. And so again, I'm very proud of it, because we're bringing people to the podcast that have enormous amount of experience and expertise in their field of study, and they just have information that people could either embrace, ignore, or think about it and work with their doctor and financial advisor to see if this makes sense for their own lives.
Well, health and wealth, I mean, it's kind of sort of offhand, I would say you're gearing toward older people. And I think that's good that there's podcasts for older people. There aren't a lot of, the theory in the industry is that older people don't know how to access podcasts, but I think that's bullshit.
No, this is for everybody. I mean, who doesn't want to be healthy? I mean, there's more and more evidence that young people are coming up with illnesses that usually are associated with middle-aged and elderly people.
That's true. That's very true.
And so therefore we need to find out. So that's what I'm going to ask Dr. Eck next week, what type of illnesses she's seeing in young people in her practice, and what are the recommendations in terms of how to prevent a lot of these illnesses that we're seeing that we never saw before in people in their 20s and 30s and 40s.
That's right. The median age for colonoscopies keeps going down and down and down. Yep. Colorectal cancer. It's unbelievable. And in a lot of ways, in instances, they don't know why. So I think one of the reasons is we have a more sedentary economy, a sedentary society. People are at their computers, and that has an impact on your digestive tract. And so people are not eating enough fiber. I think that's everyone realizes that. They probably may not be hydrating enough. So there are dietary and exercise that you can do and change your lifestyle a little bit in order to avoid some of these illnesses. But we're seeing a lot of mental health problems. We talked about that on the first show with Dr. Joseph Sansone, a psychotherapist. So again, we have a lot of work to do to get the people's health back up to a much better level than it is today. Yeah. I want to assure you I'm extremely hydrated. Hey, Murray, when this book comes out with your essay in July, give me a call back, remind me. We'll have you on again. Okay. Great. I appreciate it. Thanks so much, really Jim. Appreciate it too, man. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. I'm totally with what you got going on here. So, it's just a matter of getting the word out. I guess we're just just pound and pound and pound, Well, that's it. Repetition works. That's how the left was able to get a lot of their policies through. It took them decades to get some of their policies through. I think we could get these ideas out to the public in order for them to do whatever they think is appropriate to make their lives better, and maybe hound their people in Congress to say, listen, we've tried it your way for decades. Let's try it the old-fashioned way. Independence. That's why I created Make Americans Financially Independent at mafiausa.com. Yeah. Thanks, Murray. I really appreciate it. I'm sorry. Thanks, Jim. Sorry I kept you late too. So that's okay. I apologize. We'll see you. Take care. Take care. Our thanks to Murray Sabrin there. Yeah, highly educational. Good name for a podcast, Health and Wealth. And it's not figurative. He's actually talking about both medicine and economics. Wish I'd thought of that. This is Footnotes for Wednesday, April 29th. Now, Murray and I were talking about this, but I talk about this with everybody, and we had ThinkCon last week, and we were talking about it. We showed his AI video. He did a trailer for basically a non-existent movie, 2.5 minutes. It was incredible. The whole thing was AI, all of it, even the music, the voices, everything. Who could tell? John Loftus, who's a columnist for the Daily Caller, he wrote on the State of the Day Substack today. He wrote a column called "We Are Trapped Inside Dystopia and There's No Way Out," and he was prompted by and references an article that was in Axios yesterday, and that article brings up 6 points about AI, most of which we've talked about at length on the show, but I'm going to name the 6 points they named. One is AI is the fastest growing product category in world history. That's true. The second one of the latest models is so powerful that its makers won't release it to the public. We've talked about that. That's Anthropic. That's theirs. Point number three, OpenAI and Anthropic say their most powerful AI coding models are now building themselves. We've talked about that too. Yeah, they're literally, and this is what I said this is what this whole article is about. But this is what I said is where AI is actually replacing people. When AI can fix itself or improve itself, the game's over. You don't need any human intervention at that point, and that's the scary part. Fourth point was AI companies are growing less transparent as the models grow more powerful. That's absolutely true, and there's no federal or legal requirement that they even be transparent in the first place. AI resentment is building fast, and they reference the fact that Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, his home was attacked twice by 2 different people, unrelated incidents within a week, of people who are pissed off about this. And the second one is that AI havoc is no longer theoretical. The software erased $2 trillion in investment value in the last few weeks as people started to realize how many jobs it's going to replace. And once again, like I said, it's not a tool for these people. It doesn't replace another tool. It replaces people. And that's actually been my point here the entire time, is that this article, and this is Loftus's point too. I mean, he referenced this article in Axios, and that's his point too. And that is, this is going to replace people. And so what happens, like, if you spent your entire life as an accountant, are you going to end up just being a plumber, after 40 years? Are you going to do that? Are you going to have to? It's really getting frightening. As I told Murray, I mean, I've been saying this here for months and months about the fact that I think that in the short term, there's going to be massive unemployment because the AI is going to replace all sorts of stuff. Now, I made jokes about this, about AI replacing me. In reality, I'm like the last person on the list because of what I do here, but there are already AI interviewers, and I've heard a few of them, and they're not bad. I mean, I don't know if I'd say they're interesting, but they're competent, Now, how long it takes for it to get quirky, I don't know. I don't. They're, the argument we've had here is whether AIs are ever going to become sentient or conscious. And a lot of people say, well, it's a machine. It can't be conscious. And that's probably true. But it can fake consciousness really well. And if it can fake consciousness or fake sentience, does it even matter if it's real or not? Does it, I mean, I say, and I give the example I gave is Kat Timpth was talking about this on the Gutfeld show a couple weeks ago about the fact that the reason I think I'm probably good at this is because of the quirky nature in which I do it. I mean, I mean, I have to tell you, I mean, you look at the shorts and the captions that are produced by my speech. It's like I'm not exactly like Hugh Downs here, the announcer. And the irony is, I used to be able to do that. I did, but I as more knowledge ended up in my head, the less I've been able to do it. But the thing, can you fake quirkiness? Well, we'll see. But I'm not even, as a commentator, I'm not even talking about me. I don't know if AI would talk about itself. I don't know. I just think this is just we're in for a very, very scary time. That's what I think. And now I'm not talking about scary in terms of personal danger. No, there's I actually looked this up before we went on the air today. There's a movie in 1970 called Colossus: The Forbin Project, and it was about a giant supercomputer that the U.S. government built into a mountain on the Rocky Mountain range to handle our defense system, and it became sentient and turned on the government. And the irony is, this computer was built into a mountain, whereas now the current versions of AI can basically run in the space of a microwave oven. We don't have to build anything into a mountain anymore, because it was big. No, these things they run a server rack. You don't. They're not particularly big. But the general theme was the same. In the movie, this device or this program, its job was to save humanity from nuclear war, and in the process of doing that, it basically took over the government. And it's thought, well, I am fulfilling my purpose, but it took freedom away from everyone. It's an interesting movie. I've seen it twice. I wouldn't say it's a good movie. That's the thing. It's not really a particularly good movie, but the premise is really, really applicable to what we have going on now. I don't know where this is going to go. In the meantime, I mean, yeah, there's a whole bunch of people that are going to be able to use it, and Tim Conaway, our old friend, I was talking about him offline about the fact that I agree with him on this too. The courts have ruled now that art, or like a movie or music produced by AI, is not copyrightable. But on the other hand, I mean, he compared to what was the analogy he used? He said it's just like running it's probably running a movie through a filter. You still have to, somebody still has to initiate the process, and that in this case still it's a human. So if and people brought out, well, okay, so if you're producing a film by typing prompts into a computer screen, you could copyright the prompts. You could do that, and that's legit. But still, it's like there's so many things involved in the creative process that no one person, especially in filmmaking, no one person is really in charge. That, I mean, you have a director and a producer. They theoretically own the copyright, but did they do it all? No, they didn't. So, yeah, I don't know. It's going to be really interesting what's going on here. Another thing that's really interesting, and I've been talking about this for weeks too, way before the mainstream press picked up on it, about all these scientists who've gone missing, these nuclear scientists in the United States. Well, according to Eric Burleson and the Sentient News, a 12th person was added this week. His name is Joshua Kyle LeBlanc. He was 29 years old. He was killed in a car accident in July 2025. He was working on the nuclear thermal propulsion system for a rocket to take Americans to Mars. That's what he's working for. Now, 27 days before he died, that program was canned because the government came to the conclusion that SpaceX had perfected their process of standard bullshit rocket launches so well that they weren't going to need this rocket engine anymore. It was going to run off nuclear power. And whereas they're just burning up jet fuel to send these rockets into space. But they've gotten the cost down to the point now where the government apparently realized we can do this cheaper, just the standard ordinary or an ordinary method. But this LeBlanc guy, this is really, really weird. I mean, okay, I've said of the 12 people on this list, I've already said one of them doesn't belong on the list. So if you take him off, even of the 11, you could say some of these deaths were relatively conventional, but some of them weren't. And then there's the 6 people that were missing that basically walked out of their house all in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and never came back. And none of them took their cell phones. This LeBlanc guy, he was 29 years old. He was found, his Tesla wrecked by going into a tree and blew up, and literally blew up. His body was, they had to run forensic analysis, DNA analysis. His body was burned beyond recognition. They could not tell it was him, but they knew there was someone in the car. But what Tesla figured out, because of their Sentry monitoring system, Sentry mode in their vehicles, this was a Tesla Model 3, is LeBlanc drove the Tesla to the Huntsville, Alabama airport. He worked in Huntsville. That's called Rocket City. A lot of people in the jet propulsion world work there. He drove it to the airport. It sat in a parking lot for 4 hours, and then under self-driving mode, the car itself drove 30 minutes into the next county and ran into a tree. Now, did you hear me right? As no person was driving the vehicle, but apparently LeBlanc was inside, and ostensibly he was inside for the vehicle for the 4 hours that it was parked at the Huntsville airport, even though he had no flight, he had no reason to be there. No, he drove the car to the airport. It sat there for 4 hours with him apparently inside of it, and then the car itself took off and drove another 30 minutes and crashed into a tree and blew up. It's just the weirdest damn thing. Now, here's the other weird thing too. Sentry mode in Teslas run a video of what's in front of the vehicle. And Tesla has that video, and they won't release it to the family. So there's some video evidence here that the Tesla automobile company will not release to anyone, apparently. Apparently the police hasn't seen it either. What the fuck? So then you talked about this Riza woman, who walked out. She went hiking in Los Angeles. No, I get these women confused. Is that the Cassie's woman or the Riza woman? She's 30. She's on a trail with 2 of her friends. There are 3 people hiking. She's 30 feet behind her friends. 10 yards? It's about the size of your living room, right? Maybe a little bigger, a little longer. She's that far away from her friends, and they hear her talking, and they turn around, and she's not there, and she's never been seen since. And she didn't fall off a cliff. They checked everything. She disappeared. And also the other thing about this LeBlanc guy in the car, he didn't take his phone either. He did not have his phone on him. So this is, and even Eric Burleson, one of the congressmen who's dealing with this UFO stuff, he posted on X yesterday. He said this is not normal, and no shit, it's not normal. This is a really, really weird way to die. Really weird. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. So, I mean, here's the deal. There's 12 people involved here. Like I said, I know one person. I can tell you right off the bat, one person to belong on the list. Of those 11 people, maybe roughly half of them don't belong on that list either. So you got, people die. That's what there is. Of the other half, so now you're talking about maybe 6 or 7 people, something's going on. Life is not either or. It's not that all of this is mysterious or none of it's mysterious. Some of it's mysterious. Some of it is legitimately mysterious. And I was just talking about this the other day. Chris Wecker, a former FBI agent, he thinks, who's kidnapping these people? He thinks it's us. He thinks the American government's doing this. And they don't know why. Now, some of these people were apparently involved in UFO activities. McCaslin, the admiral, he apparently was in charge of the UFO stuff for the Air Force Research Center, supposedly, because, technically that doesn't exist. So this is all by rumor. But all I know is that people are disappearing in really, really weird ways, and they're dying in weird ways too. There's this other guy, a professor, I can't remember what he was working on. He went out, he stepped onto the front porch of his house at 6 o'clock in the morning and got shot, and killed, and they've never found the person who shot him. They don't know who it is. I don't know. It's really crazy. So I'm going to end you tonight with one more crazy thing, because once AI takes your jobs, you know how you're going to make a living? You're going to get on OnlyFans. And you're not going to make as good a living as Shannon Elizabeth. Remember her? She was the actress in American Pie. Very attractive woman. She's 52 years old now. I saw the pictures. She still looks fantastic. I got to tell you, I wouldn't even say for her age. She just looks fantastic. But she got an OnlyFans, and the first week she made over $1 million. She won't say how much over $1 million, but she made 7 figures in 7 days on OnlyFans. There you go. There's your new job. Once AI replaces you, that's what you're doing. Oh my God. It's crazy times, folks. It's a crazy time to be alive. I'm going to thank Murray Sabrin again for joining us. Insightful stuff on the economy there. Very opinionated guy. He knows a lot. He has an institute named after him. I pretty much bring this up every time he comes on. In Ramapo College in New Jersey, there's the Sabrin Institute of Free Enterprise, I think it's called. So he's been around a little bit. So tomorrow night, our guest is going to be Mike Arnold. Mike Arnold is actually an entrepreneur by trade, but he's written 3 books, and his latest book is about Christian genocide in Nigeria. Now, that sounds boring, but tune in to watch this, because I got to tell you, I'm kind of looking forward to this, because I've studied up to do this interview. There's stuff I found out that I never knew ever. Like I mentioned this last night, like the fact that, did you know Nigeria is the 6th largest country on earth? There's well over 200 million people living there. I had no idea, none. That's just one little thing of many fascinating facts that I've learned. And so we're going to talk about this genocide situation, which the government says, government says, yes, people are getting killed, but it's not just Christians. But the Christians are saying that's bullshit. And apparently Arnold is too. So I want to learn where he's coming from in that. That's tomorrow night. And on Monday, what is that, the 4th? Oh, geez. The 5th, this coming Monday, Michael Letts, he's returning, a former CIA officer, and started a nonprofit organization to distribute bulletproof vests to law enforcement. He's coming back. He was on just 3 or 4 months ago. He was a fantastic guy, excellent guest, but I'm having him on, believe it or not, because that guy at the White House Correspondents Association dinner didn't die because he was wearing a bulletproof vest. So I thought, well, this is a good time. He's an expert at this, so let's talk to him. That's on Monday. So we'll see you tomorrow night, folks. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe. Aren't you tired of hearing that? I am too, but still, I'd really appreciate it if you did. Like and subscribe to the show wherever you watch it. And we'll see you tomorrow night with Mike Arnold. Thanks. Take care.